There is absolutely a field around us that magnetizes certain things to us and repels other things away. And it's what's called the field of attraction, or if you've heard of the law of attraction. And I want to share with you today a practice that I use weekly and then ultimately yearly, which is why I'm here at the end of December, to help to tune that field, to help me better call in the people, places, and things that I want to surround myself with in my life. And it's a very simple practice. But before I get into it, my name is Jay Cohen. If you are new to the channel, welcome. I often talk about a system called the Gene Keys. This year, however, I want to talk about how I embody that system, how I embody these deep universal truths, not just from the Gene Keys, but from many different sources that I've acquired. I'm going to be sharing practices and like this one, and ultimately also how I am building a life that I love using a practice like this one. In 2 months last year, made $48,000, just over, and it was from embodying this wisdom. And I did it by utilizing my unique gifts with the world. And I tell you this not to toot my own horn, but for those of you that are struggling, for those of you that so deeply want prosperity, to know that it can change like that. And it is absolutely possible, and this stuff is absolutely real. So our attractor field is all about frequency. We gotta take a pause. Speaking of frequency, slow down. A little sip of tea. I love a good chai. So our attractor field is all about frequency. And our frequency, there's really two big components to it. There's the frequency of the things surrounding us, and then there is our internal frequency. And basically, whatever we attune to is the things that are in resonance. In other words, where our frequency aligns to the frequency of the things around us. And all of this is driven by the workings of karma. So there's certain circumstances, certain things, certain people that are drawn into your field based on your frequency that give you the next set of lessons that you need. So if we are at a lower frequency, the lessons that come in might be a little bit more difficult because you need to get smacked awake. And as our frequency begins to spiral upwards, the frequencies become more subtle, and the things that come to us become more refined and a lot more enjoyable for what it's worth. And the goal is to get our frequency spiraling upward. And a lot of times what happens is, instead of a spiral, when we're in our lower frequency state, we get stuck in a circle. And it's just the same lessons over and over and over again. And our attractor field never raises frequency, and we wonder why we can never get the life that we want. What we are aiming for, though, is a spiral. So something happens in our life that matched our frequency. We need to accept that thing. And by accepting that thing and eventually learning to be grateful for it, which is a part of this practice that I'm going to tell you about, I can raise my frequency by responding in a higher frequency. We always have a choice, right? We have our IQ and our EQ, our intellectual and emotional intelligence. And when I can balance those things and remember what I really am, our SQ, my spiritual intelligence, I'm able to respond to things in a way that serves the whole, and therefore raises my frequency and drives me forward. Sometimes when these events come, we're gonna get it wrong. And so we are in that circle for a little bit, but the universe, in its endless giving, just brings it back again, and we get the same lesson, and we get to respond differently this time, which raises that spiral. So This activity is all about attuning to the love and the joy that you already have in your life. That's the key to raising your attractor field, is learning to look at your life with new eyes. We put on new glasses and we see things in a totally different way. And it brings this sense of optimism to us. And this is something that can be learned. It's something that is cultivated. So if you're not naturally this way, that's okay. You practice, just like you practice anything else, and you will gradually become better at it. The good news is that we are wired as humanity to be optimistic. I know that might be hard to believe with everything that's happening in the world right now, but that's because the world, the collective, is caught at large in a shadow frequency. So I've done this now 2 years in a row. So this is everything from 2023, and this is everything from 2024. And basically what I do each week on Sunday, I have a little task set up in my calendar that auto-populates and reminds me that it's time to do my weekly practice. And I keep a bunch of little slips of paper, which is what I'm pulling out of this jar right now, sitting on top of my fridge with a little green felt pen. And I reflect, I just take a moment and I reflect back on the prior week. And I think about all the different things that I did, all the different things that I said, all the different things that happened to me. And just that in and of itself is worth doing this practice. This attitude of reflection. We do such a good job, or many people do such a good job in the West of setting goals, of looking forward. But we don't do such a good job of reflecting back, of trying to learn lessons so that we can change our behavior so that we don't get stuck in these never-ending loops. And then after I reflect, I write down one thing that I'm grateful for, and I really let it into my heart, and I really feel it, and I really feel that frequency. And that's the frequency that I try and hold with everything, every day, every moment. And I'm certainly not perfect. And in fact, I would say where I am right now, it's probably 50-50. I'm not here to say that I'm on this high hill and you are down here. No. I am well aware of where I am in this process. So then at the end of the year, right now, it's the final Sunday of 2024. I go through these and I remember what happened. And I'm gonna do this in real time with you. Just pick a few of these randomly and talk about them. This one says, I'm gaining clarity on what's next. So let me tell you what this means. In 2023, at the end of the year, I shut down another business. I had a big brick and mortar business, 20 people working for me, doing $1 million a year in revenue, and I was miserable. And I had worked so hard to get there because I thought that that was the thing that I wanted. I thought that was my life's work. I thought it was gonna change everything. And when I got there and I was still empty inside, that was a big part of the reason that I took almost an entire year to go within and to do nothing, to just slow down and to allow the universe to lead me in a certain direction. And in this week, whenever it was, I don't write the dates. I had sometimes in 2023, but I didn't at all this year. I was starting to gain clarity on what I'm meant to be doing. And what it wound up being is this, what I'm doing right now. I have this beautiful container of 9 people that I call the Synarchy that I work with on a deep, deep level, and it's so beautiful. This one, speaking of, I sold 9K in 9 days. So some of these are more earthly and some of them are more spiritual. I really believe that we are both. And so to pretend that I'm only a spirit and that the earthly things don't matter is I think, incorrect. And to pretend the opposite, that all that there is material things, I don't think that's correct either. And so this one, of course, happens to be one that's more material in nature. Here, this one's another money one. I don't want to read that one. Ev and I had a healing conversation about homeschool Emma and myself. So Evelyn is my daughter. I've got a 13-year-old little girl who I love beyond words. And Emma is my ex-wife. And luckily we are amazing co-parents and we have a good relationship still. And so I had a sit-down conversation with my daughter that really opened my heart and her heart, and we cried together and we talked about the future and we talked about the past. And it just really made me remember how important being a dad is to me. I didn't have that in my life. And honestly, I wasn't the best dad for the first 10, 12 years of Evelyn's life. So you can start to feel as I look at these things that I get sucked back into that frequency. And in this way, we can attune to all the good that is happening in our lives. And it's not all good. Let me be clear. Let me give you some context here. So I also, last year, because I shut down that business, lost a lot of money. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I couldn't sell the business. I tried. And deal after deal fell through. And so now I still have a bankruptcy hanging over my head from that business. Also, I just told you my divorce was just finalized. We'd been separated for a few years, but my divorce was just finalized a few weeks ago. So it's not like it's all bright and easy in my life. It doesn't need to be. In fact, it's not going to be. This is about accepting all of it, seeing both sides. Let's do one more. I'm on the other side of a move, lots of travel and a gnarly sickness. So sometimes it's just simple things, right? I get to be able to slow down, to calm down, to let things come into me completely. Last one. I'm looking for a more spiritual one. Because I promise there's lots of them. I've had nearly 10 people interested in working with me from a wisdom call. So you can see a lot of these. The first wisdom call was incredible. So a lot of you come to these wisdom calls. The synarchy is beginning to form through God's grace. They're just these little reminders. And I'm so grateful that a lot of you have been part of this journey with me. Thank you from the depths of my heart. The last thing I'll show you here is take a look at this one. It's just fuzz. And this one, so I moved this year, as that last one said, and in that moving process, unfortunately, some water got into this. And as I said, I used that felt tip pen and they just smudged. But that's part of the deal, right? That's part of the year. Life isn't perfect. And maybe I wasn't supposed to remember those things. Who knows? I actually need to reflect and contemplate on what the meaning of that is a little bit more. The point of this, though, is that we must exercise, or we get to exercise, discernment. So discernment is the 13th gene key. It's discord at the shadow or lower frequency, discernment at the gift frequency, and empathy at the highest frequency. So discernment is about choosing what story do we want to identify with. Do I want to identify with all of these? Or do I want to identify with the suffering that I feel? Trust me. Do I want to identify with the struggle? It's a reality that those things happen. They are a part of life. However, I can choose which frequency I attune to, what my home base is, and I choose these as my home base. And my intention is to take all of these and glue them onto a piece of paper, a big piece, and then put them in a frame. And so I don't know if I'll do a year, so 2023 is 2024, or maybe I'll do 3 or 5 years at a time, but I think it's gonna be really, really special and really, really cool after I have a few years of this. So thank you for being here. I invite you to subscribe to the channel. I'm going to try to share a bit more of this journey, of this process, more esoteric wisdom and knowledge. And I'd love to have you here. Thank you. Until next time.